I ended up having a grand mal seizure and I stopped breathing. She had to resuscitate me. She said she did full CPR on me to bring me
Oh my
back.
God. Yeah.
Um, but what I remember was this amazing euphoric transition. I went
Yeah.
from feeling just awful, just like everything was so miserable with this dizziness and this unsettling feeling from the reaction to the lidocaine to just that those feelings vanished and I was in euphoria.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Camille.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to talk to you. Anytime I meet people who are operating in their spiritual gifts, that are using their spiritual gifts and are really vocal about it and living authentically, I always want to know more about how they got there, because I think there's a lot of people, myself included, some of the listeners and watchers included, who want to explore their spirituality. Maybe they've had spiritual experiences, maybe they've had things that are paranormal or mystical happen, and they're afraid to explore it more. So I think what we want to dive into first is where this all started for you. Like, obviously, you're an intuitive channel now, you're a medium, you're all these amazing things. Was it always like that for you? Like, what was childhood like for Emily?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yes, I have always been able to see and hear spirits from a young
Yeah.
childhood on.
It's amazing.
I have, yeah, I have a spirit here right now. I can feel actually.
Yeah. Feel free if you need to talk to spirit, trust this is
I
a
can,
safe space for
thank
you to
you.
do
I
whatever you need
appreciate.
to do. Yeah.
Yes, yes, they want to come through. They have specific messages for somebody.
Okay, sure.
I'm not getting anything specific right now. I can just feel them.
Sure.
So if they want to come through, I'll let them come through. But yeah, as a kid, I could always see and hear them. And I was the type that I couldn't sleep at night because I knew they were in
Yeah.
my room.
Yeah.
And so probably 5 or 6 nights out of the week, you would find me sleeping in my parents' bedroom on
Mhm.
the floor, which my parents hated. But in the middle of the
Yeah.
night, I would have just enough courage to get out of bed and like run all the way throughout the entire house because their room was on the other side of the house to
Yeah.
get to their room. That's where I felt safe.
That's where
I
you felt
didn't
safe.
understand these spirits. I didn't understand why they were always around me. I couldn't tell you if they were good or bad. I didn't know. I couldn't even it was like the comprehension of it. My mind was
Yeah.
not there to really grasp it.
Yeah.
Um, so that was like my early experience. I remember it's probably around age 7. Um,
Mhm.
I could always hear him. So when spirit comes to me, and I don't know if it's the same for you, Camille, but
Mhm.
if if they're speaking to me, they're downloading so much information at like
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain it, but it's just at a speed that my mind can't keep up. And
Sure.
so it's like in this rapid speed, they're giving me so much information.
Yeah.
And so at about age 7, I remember sitting in my parents' living room and I could see them. There were like 4 of them near me, and they were all talking at once. And I felt like I was going crazy. I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, I can't do this. You're making me go crazy. You're all talking to me at once, and my
Yeah.
brain cannot keep up at the same pace that you're going.
Yeah.
So um, I asked them to stop, and they did.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
stopped, and they didn't come back until many years later until I invited them back, which
Wow.
spirit has to do. They have to honor us.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful thing for each of us to know that we have that power over ourselves and they cannot, even prankster spirits, cannot stay with us as long as we take the power and we
I
say no.
have I have so many questions, Emily. First of all, I love how in just the first 3 or 4 minutes you pack so much in. So you are hearing spirit, and I wish I heard spirit the way that you did. And for me, it's mostly physical, and I usually have to discern, and I get maybe visuals. So I wish it kind of came as downloads. I think that's so beautiful. When you were a child and you're running into your parents' room and you're trying to get comfort, were they Are these also spiritual people who have gifts? Did they understand what was going on with you? Did you tell them about this?
I don't think I did. I need to
No?
ask my mom. So
Yeah.
my mom and dad were both raised with parents with polarizing views of religion. Both of them were
Yeah.
like, my mom was raised with, her mom was Jewish and her father was Protestant. My dad was,
Yeah.
mom was Catholic, father was Catholic, but didn't really participate. He
Yeah.
wasn't active. And so when my parents raised my sisters and I, they both agreed, look, we don't want to push religion or any
Mhm.
spiritual thoughts on our kids. So they
Yeah.
never talked to us about their spiritual upbringing or having us being spiritual at all.
Yeah.
So I was in it by myself. And I'm sure I told my mom, like, hey, and my mom and dad, because I was in their bedroom almost every night, there's spirits in my bedroom. I'm
Yeah.
sure I told
Yeah.
them, but they probably didn't really grasp it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I wasn't raised in any sort of church or upbringing with really embracing a spiritual
Yeah.
upbringing.
Wow.
If my parents were equipped, um,
Mhm.
this is in the 70s. If they were,
Sure.
they probably would have been able to really help me understand what was going on and why I had all these spirits talking to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Today, my mom, she's like right there with me. She's
Yeah.
fully spiritual. She's very connected. My father, he's also kind of a silent, like spiritual seeker.
Yeah. I
So,
love that. I love that. And going back to your story about um setting these spiritual boundaries. So you're in this kind of on your own. You're telling your parents, but they don't really have a way to process any of this. You set the boundary and you tell spirit to be quiet. Now, it sounds like from what I've read on your site, several years passed before you kind of started digging back into spirituality. Can you tell me about just what happened within those years, and then how did you kind of get back into spirituality?
so it's fascinating. For some reason, was drawn to going to a church. And so I'd go to church
Yeah.
with my neighbors. Again, my parents never went to church, but my neighbors would take me.
Yeah.
And I never knew why I wanted to go to church, but I was drawn to it.
Yeah.
And so I started going to church. And now looking back, it's just connecting with Jesus. That was my way to connect with him. Um,
Yeah.
and I would go to different camps, like Christian camps and stuff, and those were just fun. I just thought they were fun as
Yeah.
a little kid. But I remember the last one I went to. Um, I wasn't a religious person. I just was connecting to Jesus, to the spirit of Jesus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember the last camp. I was probably junior high at this point, and feeling completely ostracized by the counselors and
Mm.
my peers because I wasn't religious. I was not a Christian and
Mhm.
feeling just awful. And it was a
Yeah.
whole week long camp. So I'm
Mhm.
stuck with these people and they're telling me over and over and over, you're going to go to hell.
Oh,
You
wow.
realize you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, what?
Mm.
No, Jesus is amazing. He's not going
Yeah.
to send me to hell. And
Yeah.
just wanting to get out of there. So I walked away from the church at that point. That again, I was like junior high, and I remember another story I want to share with you.
Yeah.
When my dog died, like 2 weeks before my 16th birthday, I saw her soul leave her body, ascend from her body, and I was devastated. I had had her since I was 2, so I had her for 14 years, and
Yeah.
but I got the privilege of seeing her soul ascend, and on
Yeah.
my 16th birthday, my some of my friends came over for a slumber party, and I remember sharing, like, I miss my dog, I'm having a hard time. And my one of my friends, and she's sweet, don't get me wrong, she's a sweet girl,
Mhm.
she is a pastor's daughter, so she was raised in the church, and I said, I can't
Mhm.
wait to the day that I can reunite with my dog.
Yeah.
And she basically told me I was crazy, dogs don't go to heaven,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, basically made me feel again like awful. And here's a
Yeah.
grieving person, and here the Christians in my exposure are basically
Mhm.
ostracizing and belittling Islam if you don't have the same beliefs. So that
Yeah.
really continued to draw me away from the church because I was like,
Yeah.
this is not what Jesus is about. Because I had my own little personal relationship with Jesus. I loved him, and I just
Yeah.
like I work closely with Jesus and Mother Mary and grandmother
Mhm.
Anna, who is Jesus's
Mhm.
grandmother. Very close
Mhm.
with them,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, gosh, there's a lot of judgment on this side, but that's Jesus is about love and forgiveness and accepting everyone. Is a very inclusive, spirit. And
Mhm.
so I didn't understand that. So when I went into high school or into college, at the same time I became a massage therapist. I was so into the
Mhm.
metaphysical world. And
Yeah.
I didn't really want to do the college thing, but that was the
Yeah.
track my parents had me on.
Yeah.
So I was in college, but I became a massage therapist, an aromatherapist, and a
Yeah.
acupressurist. And I would exchange, and for the tuition, I would clean at the school at
Oh,
night.
wow. Wow.
So
Yeah.
this one night, I'm the um, at the school cleaning after I had
Yeah.
just taken an aromatherapy class, and we were doing like spiritual connection with the essential oils and how they open up different like chakras and the uses for them.
Mhm.
It was a really cool class, but
Yeah.
some spirits had been hovering around, and I hadn't had been
Yeah.
really dealing with spirits since I was a young child, but here I'm feeling them again. So
Yeah.
I'm in this place alone cleaning. It's late at night, and all of a sudden I'm in that room and I could just feel the spirits. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel good. This is not a good spirit. Uh,
Yeah.
so at that point, I remembered like cleaning as fast as I could to get out of there. And as soon as I could get out of there, I was turned around to lock the door. And the front door to this building, there was a window that you could see in to the
Yeah.
school. So I lock it and I'm looking in and I see this spirit coming at me, and it's
Oh,
like
wow.
literally coming down the hall. It comes through the door and it knocks me over. Um,
Wow. So
yeah,
normally, I mean, so it's pretty rare to see spirits in full form, from my understanding, and to
yeah,
also have them be able to physically push you. How? Tell me about how that impacted you.
it scared me. It so
Yeah.
scared me. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, again, so now I had left the church. I left any sort of religious thing because I'm like, this is not
Yeah.
who I am. I'm trying to go back into
Yeah.
the spiritual realm. They scared me as a kid. And now I have
Yeah.
this experience, and I had other experiences with being a massage therapist and having spirits. Like, basically, I was doing exorcists on my clients as I was massaging them.
Yeah.
Weird experiences. Um, and I'm like, I'm not fit for this. I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to handle this. So that that kind of had me turn away from spirituality. I stopped doing massage.
Yeah.
I just walked away. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
want any of this in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were basically done with spirituality. And for, I think most of us can understand why. If you have several spooky, scary experiences, I had the same thing where I got spooked from things and I stepped away. Um, what brought you back though to the Emily you are now? I mean, it sounds like, I mean, listen, if I was knocked down by a spirit, I don't know if I would ever come back. So what was the thing that made you come back?
Oh gosh, a long journey. So that was like in the
Yeah.
late 90s. So I was in my mid 20s at that point.
Yeah.
Um, and um, I had a near death experience, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
brought me back.
Yeah, and I am so thankful that you're willing to talk about this because I love the subject of near death experiences, and I just think it's such, for those who are willing to share, it can be a really beautiful gift. I'm sure not only to you but to others. So yeah, we would love to hear all about your near death experience.
Yeah. So leading up to the NDE, I was well, if we backtrack to my childhood, I had a learning disability.
Yeah.
And so school was hard. It was so awful for me. I absolutely
Mhm.
hated school. I couldn't read or write. Um, and I just wanted to be normal. So
Yeah.
I basically sacrificed my entire childhood just to fit in. And
Yeah.
so I became a workaholic, and
Hmm.
like going to university on top of massage school. Like,
Right.
stupid, not normal, not healthy, no balance.
Yeah.
I didn't know how
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
downtime essentially.
Yeah.
So, so during my adulthood, I I never really fit into, like, the conventional job, like corporate America.
Yeah.
I tried it a few times, never felt comfortable. So I always was like, "I'm just gonna work for myself because I know I can work hard." So I
Yeah.
had started some businesses that turned them into seven-figure businesses. I was, like,
Mhm.
37, 38 at the time. This was
Mhm.
back in 2014. I was also married to a man that, I hate to say he was a narcissist, but I'm an empath.
Sure. Yeah.
So we attract
That's a common thing. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I really truly loved him, and he's no longer with us. But
Mm.
I don't ever intend to speak bad of him, but it just there was a lot of me just not knowing who I was and my worth.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so I was married and I had these businesses, and I realized I was just living for everyone else's expectations and their
Mm.
happiness and not my own. I didn't even know
Mhm.
who I was. I had no
Mhm.
concept. My worth was in my production.
Yeah.
So I was exhausted. And this happens a lot to people. They have near death
Mm.
experiences when they are just, there's nothing, the fuel tank is on empty. They're just barely on
Yeah.
fumes. That's where I
Yeah.
was at. And so that's, I would happen to be at a doctor's office. This is 2015. I was at a doctor's office and
Yeah.
having a simple procedure. Well, I had a bad reaction to lidocaine,
Yeah.
where my doctor had injected me, and all of a sudden I was feeling like really woozy and uneasy. And I fainted before in my past, but this was like 100 times more intense. And I remember wanting to say to my doctor, I don't feel good. I need help, but nothing would come
Sure.
out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Well, what was happening? I ended up having a grand mal seizure
Oh
and
my
I
god.
stopped breathing. She had to resuscitate me. She said she did full CPR on me to bring me
Oh my
back.
god. Yeah.
Um, but what I remember was this amazing euphoric transition. I went
Yeah.
from feeling just awful, just like everything was so miserable with this dizziness and this unsettling feeling from the reaction to the lidocaine to just that those feelings vanished and I was in euphoria,
Yeah.
complete nirvana. And I'm
Yeah.
in this black tunnel with a white light at the end of it.
Yeah.
And there's a silhouette of a being in the middle of the white light. And my body was like just effortlessly floating to this light
Mhm.
or this silhouette. And I just was, as I was going up, I remember not caring where I was. Like I didn't
Mhm.
know where I was. I had no clue. That didn't bother me. Like me,
Yeah.
Emily, in this human body would be freaked out
Right.
if I was in this black space with a white light that I'm just walking to and having no clue what it is. No,
Sure.
in this spiritual realm, there's no feelings of
Yeah.
fear or worry. I was just so happy.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, so I'm realizing, okay, now I'm transitioning. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna
Yeah.
die. And I was excited. I was like,
I'm
yes.
excited.
I was excited because in that state it feels so good. I
Yeah.
wasn't like suicidal or anything. It just was a wow, this is amazing. But,
Mhm.
but then I had this poignant thought. My
Yeah.
mom, my dad, and my beloved dog Buster
Yeah.
were gonna go through some intense grief with my passing.
Mhm.
And being an empath, we always think about other people's
Others.
feelings
Yes. Yes.
and we take their pain on, right?
Yes.
Okay, this was insane, Camille. I'm thinking about them. I'm
Mhm.
concerned for them, but I don't feel their pain.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I just see, oh, they're going to be in pain. And then I'm shown
Mm.
three timelines that look like, what do you call it? Like the old
Like
thermometer,
film strip?
you
Oh,
know,
no, a
thermometer
thermometer.
that has
Yeah.
the
Oh, the
ingredient.
mercury, I guess, in it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm shown three horizontal timelines that has like Mercury in it, and the Mercury is representing their grief. And it
Oh,
showed me like their grief was like maybe a quarter of whatever the remainder of their life is.
okay.
And so I could see for each of them where their grief was and how much further how long they would be grieving my passing.
Sure, sure.
But I could see that they would get through it,
Yeah.
that they weren't going to be in this like destabilizing, this like paralyzing grief for the rest of their life.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
was just like, again, as an empath going, "Oh my gosh, these they have the tools to get through their own grief." For
Yeah.
some reason, I don't know why, and I can
Mm.
say for myself, and not all, maybe not all empaths feel this way, but for
Mm.
some reason, I've always felt like it was my responsibility to help people.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about?
I have felt that a good portion of my life, and I've tried to put up the boundaries, so I understand absolutely, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not fair
hard.
for us to think that we need to do that for ourselves or for anybody else.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, so you're in this state and you see these thermometer kind of timelines. You're realizing that they are going to grieve, but they'll get over it.
Mhm.
So at this point, are you thinking about turning back? Are you thinking about going forward? What
I'm
you're
just,
thinking
like,
about
effortlessly floating out
yeah, you're
like
still
this
floating.
silhouette. I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Yes, let's go."
And who is that silhouette? Do you know who that is at the end of the tunnel?
No clue.
No
No
clue,
clue.
but you're
Mm-mm.
floating towards them.
It's a very nurturing energy. That's all I could tell you.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very nurturing. So my first intention or thought is, could it be Jesus? Because to me, Jesus
Yeah.
is super nurturing,
Of
and he's a
course, yeah.
guide I've worked with my entire life. But I don't know if it's Jesus. I have, maybe it was one of my main guides. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just floating and I'm weightless and I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
realized, this is the first time now, after the fact, this is the first time in my life I actually feel whole.
Yeah.
You don't have any
Mm.
worry about anything. You don't have, you love your loved ones, but you don't feel their grief and you're not grieving your
Mhm.
departure of them.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. Like, because again, being a sensitive person, I like saying goodbye is
Yeah.
heart wrenching for me.
Yeah.
I hate saying goodbye to
Me
people I
too.
love.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
embarrassing.
the same way.
Oh my gosh, isn't it awful?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone, my family goes, "Oh, here she goes again. She's crying." I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's me. Yeah. Yeah.
"I
Yeah. Yeah.
to be this way." But
Yeah.
in that space, I didn't have the grief. I
Yeah.
didn't have that. I knew I was leaving them and I was 100% okay with it. I was
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
completely whole.
Wow.
So I was floating and then out of nowhere, um I was shoved back into my body. This energy force
Wow.
just shoved me back into my physical body. That was
Wow.
probably my doctor performing CPR.
Yeah. 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 I would imagine that was probably the intervention. I think it's so interesting, though, from a lot of the near death experience stories that I've heard. Sometimes you get a choice where they say, do
Yeah,
you want to come back? But you didn't get the choice. You were floating, you were fine. And then it was like the doctor or whomever pulled you back into your body.
right. So
Yeah.
the other thing that I believe in is we have birth angels and we all have birth angels and our birth angels will intervene when it's not our exit point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think it was my exit point in my
Wasn't
birth.
your time. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was ready though.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, how did it feel? You're pulled back into your body. I'm assuming you probably see somebody, your doctor, performing CPR on you. You realize that you're back in the room. Were you upset? Were you mad?
I was very
Yeah.
angry. Okay, well,
Yeah.
first I had amnesia. I didn't know who I was.
Oh
I didn't know
wow.
who my doctor was. And my doctor's yelling Emily, and I'm like, "Who is this woman? Why is she yelling Emily? Who's
Oh
Emily?"
my
Like
god.
Emily wasn't even a name to me. I didn't get it. I was like, "I don't understand."
Yeah.
And the other thing too is in the spiritual realm, there are no boundaries. There are no limits. You are not in a
Sure.
physical body. You're just energy. And
Sure.
so now I'm in this like sterile white doctor's office that's small and there's walls and I'm like feeling really confined.
Yeah.
Not under I
Yeah.
couldn't comprehend any of it. It took me probably,
Hmm.
I would say probably 5 to 10 minutes. I can't tell you exactly for me to kind of understand who I was and kind
Yeah.
of grasp like who I just remember looking at her in complete terror like, "Who are you? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who you
Yeah.
are. Why are you here? Are you going to hurt me? Are you help
Oh
me?"
my
I,
god.
I had no clue. So
Yeah.
that was really scary. And I honestly, since that experience, I've never felt like myself. I've been told I'm a
Yeah.
partial walk-in. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of walk-ins. I only know a little bit about walk-ins. So tell me your kind of understanding of what that is and if you feel like you definitely are a walk-in.
So I'm not a full walk-in, is what I've been told.
Yeah.
Partial. A partial walk-in is so a full walk-in is when the soul is leaves and another soul comes in to finish out unfinished business that they want. So that person will
Yeah.
come back alive and they speak a different language. They're just
Oh, wow.
totally different people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know somebody that is a full walk-in, and she just
Wow.
her entire life changed overnight.
Oof.
She was not the same
Wow.
person. For
Yeah.
me, what I have been told is that I came a part of my ascended self stepped
Mhm.
in to help me
Mhm.
fulfill what my life purpose is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and had a what was it? Because I was kind of at the end of the rope. I was exhausted. I was living my life for everyone else. I didn't know who I was, or so I
Yeah.
was ready to go, but my life purpose needed to be fulfilled. So ascended part of
Yeah.
me came in and helped me get through that. And so what happened is actually within
Yeah.
6 months after my NDE, I had the courage to divorce my husband, and I actually
Yeah.
closed 2 businesses and I walked away from
Wow.
2 businesses.
So that's huge because I know you said earlier these were seven-figure businesses, and you know obviously had a marriage on top of that. Did you feel conflicted, or did it feel natural getting rid of those things?
I walked away with my dog, my car, and my computer. I didn't want
Yeah,
anything else.
you didn't
So
want it.
everything, all my worth had been in performing for people and showing it, having a $1 million home. That was just stupid.
Yeah,
I just lived for a mortgage.
yeah,
Having fancy cars, I didn't need. Um, I walked away from all. I didn't want any of it. I
yeah.
still, to this day, I don't care. Of course, I like nice things,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
they don't give me my identity.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
before, it gave me my identity.
So, oh my goodness. What a first of all, number one, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm just blown away that you experienced that. I would love to hear about your new identity, your new purpose, who you are now. What happened? I mean, obviously, we know you got rid of all the stuff you didn't need. What did you end up bringing in after you left with your dog and your computer?
Right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, well, honestly, I had really conflicting, feelings because the near death showed me that I have a purpose. We all have a purpose here. Every
Yeah.
single one of us has a purpose, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what my purpose was. I just knew there was
Sure.
a purpose.
Yeah.
And I also was very angry that I was still here, that I
Yeah.
didn't get to go because it felt so good. Uh,
Yeah.
so I my spiritual gifts reawoken
Yeah.
at that point, and I could literally, and I still can, fortunately, talk
Yeah.
to ascended masters, archangels,
Yeah.
loved ones that have transitioned.
Yeah.
I half of my life I'm probably in the spiritual realm right now.
Yeah.
I don't sleep at night. I'm constantly just talking to
You're just floating up there.
Mhm. I love it. I just love
Yeah.
connecting with them. So
Yeah.
what I ended up doing is, so I knew I had a purpose, and I leaned
Mhm.
heavily on the spiritual realm, the divine realm,
Yeah.
to help me understand what my purpose was, because I was very angry again. I just wanted to, I'm like, why am I
Mhm.
here? This is not an easy life. This is
Yeah.
hard here. Why stay?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I ended up hiring a gal, and working with her for a few years. And I shared with her, I said, I don't want to tell you about any of my spiritual background. I just want you to
Yeah.
treat me as if I am a green pea. I know nothing,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
my background was not necessary. I had a lot of freaky scares, and I just want to know how to approach this in a very sacred and
Yeah.
safe way, because the spiritual realm is vast,
Yes.
and I didn't want to go into it and getting scared again. I didn't want to have these
Yeah.
weird, like you've experienced. It's not,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to
No.
go into it. I knew that I was going to, I left making a lot of money to
Mhm.
in the traditional way, to go
Mhm.
and start a business in the spiritual way. But I needed to learn. I needed to learn as a
Yeah.
newbie. So I spent a few
Yeah.
years with her. I didn't even start channeling. She's in doing mediumship for years, because she's like, let's just take it slow with you.
Yeah.
I took it very slow. Um, I'm sorry, what was the other question you had about?
I was really yeah, I know. I always ask like 3 or 4 questions at a time. I really wanted to hear more about your new identity and your purpose, because you've touched on this, and this is what I love about your story, is you inspire people by talking about purpose, talking about soul purpose, talking about what you came on this earth to do. And we can see your gifts, but like, what do you feel like your purpose and
Mhm.
your identity is now?
Right. Okay. So now, after really just doing a lot of soul searching,
Yeah.
um, and peeling back the layers of
Yeah.
facade that I lived with for
Yeah.
38 years, um,
Yeah.
is being a beacon of light and hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing many of us, I don't want to say
Yeah.
all of us, um,
Yeah.
have the same. We're living in a facade. We're scared to show our true colors, and
Yeah.
true self, and we're all here for a purpose. And
Yeah.
right now, Camille, the Earth is going through a 30-year transition.
Yeah.
Started in 2020, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we that's since 2020, it's been tough, and it's been really hard for people, and we
Yeah.
still have a lot of growth to go through. And
Mhm.
so the more of us that are awakened, and people are awakening naturally, they're just awakening, but they don't know what to do with their spiritual gifts, like me as a kid or me in
Yeah.
my 20s. I didn't know what to do with it. And if your vibration's low, you're going to attract prankster spirits. You're going to attract things that are not good.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
being here for people that are awakening, they're trying to understand, why is my life in such a disarray? Why am I so
Yeah.
unhappy? Why am I in this phoenix fire? What's going on with me? Well, they're in a
Mhm.
transition, and their life is
Yeah.
ready to go into what they're here for. So my
Yeah.
goal is to really help, and my purpose is to help people identify what their purpose is and get them aligned with it so that
Yeah.
they can walk out their purpose. The more of us that are aligned with our purpose, the quicker and easier this transition that we're in the middle of will be for
Mhm.
all of us. And that's
Yeah.
what I want. I just want, we all deserve to enjoy this, and
Yeah.
Mother Earth needs our support too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So I definitely want to make sure we get to some of the common things that empaths go through, as you talked about. But first, I want to make sure we kind of touch on this 30-year transition, because I have had some people on the show that have talked a little bit about ascension. I generally leave ascension talk up to my guests, because I feel like you all can explain this a lot better than I can. But I want to hear your perspective on this, because this is the first time I've heard someone mention 30 years in particular, and also starting in 2020. I've heard a lot of different dates, and I've heard a lot of different definitions on ascension and transition. So tell me all your thoughts on this.
So yeah, this is again, this is me going into channeling with my guides,
Yeah.
and asking them why we're going through this. And they were the
Yeah.
ones that had said it started in 2020,
Okay.
and it's a 30-year. It's like turning a massive ship in the ocean. You can't turn it
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
But this is, and they also explain that this is this great awakening that we're going through.
Mhm.
More souls that awaken, the quicker it will be. But this is,
Yeah.
Mother Earth is tired.
Mhm.
She's basically birthing the new Earth.
Yeah.
And so this is our job to help her through this process, to help
Yeah.
her birth it. And by us awakening, is
Mhm.
increasing the vibration of her, it's increasing the vibration of those around us. Um,
Mhm.
and that is allowing this new earth, this ascension from us to go from like 3D to
Mhm.
4D to 5D. 3D is
Mhm.
a very dense energy. That's what we've been living in. The
Mhm.
4D is a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more fluid, and 5D is a little bit, definitely it's a much more harmonious of an energy. There's much more
Yeah.
equality, and that's where we're headed.
Yeah. So when we talk about spiritual awakening as well, my definition of spiritual awakening is kind of being aware of the spiritual world and the way things work. What is your definition of spiritual awakening?
It's a great question.
I know
So,
it's broad.
um, yeah, because I think for everyone it's different.
Yes.
Um, so for me, for me, it's probably a little bit more radical than most people,
Yeah.
and being
Yeah.
in tune with the spirits that are around. But um, I think the spirits, and like honestly, we have this unstoppable force within us.
Mhm.
And if you're spiritually awakened and you align with your purpose, you have
Mhm.
access to this limitless and this unstoppable force that can get you to what it is that you're here to do in this time line, this time lifetime.
I love that. And, the reason why I think your work is so interesting is I feel like you help people remove the blocks to that, and empaths in particular. When you're meeting with your clients and other people in the community, are there certain things that you find that come up a lot, like certain blocks that come up a lot with empaths?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 So, I mean, I think all of us have blocks. We're just natural. But as an empath,
Yeah.
we just our boundaries are poor if we
Yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
so
that's very true.
we're taking on
Yeah.
other people's energy, other people's
Yeah.
karma. Uh,
Yeah.
that's not ours. And it's really changing the trajectory of our lives,
Yeah.
why we're here. We're definitely taking a sidestep that is not helping anyone. And
Yeah.
so understanding that, um, and having the power to step into who you are and the amazing gift of being an empath. I mean, it's truly
Yeah.
an amazing gift
Yeah.
if you know how to
Yeah.
work with it.
Yeah, operative word if you know how to work with it. I think that's the biggest impediment to getting to that next point. So, can you tell me a little bit more about ways that you work with empaths, cuz that I feel like there's so many different probably ways that you could help remove blocks, but what are your specific gifts when it comes to working with empaths?
Um, I channel and I
Yeah.
will connect. Always set up a sacred space and I call
Yeah.
in their spirit team or their higher self, whoever wants to move or step forward. And I will
Yeah.
ask them what it is that this person, my client, needs. So it's
Yeah.
not coming from me. And so I will channel the wisdom of what is being shared. And
Mhm.
ultimately, my clients have to make a decision if
Yeah.
they want to change their life or not. Because when you change
Mhm.
your life, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And being an empath, learning how to step in your power is extremely difficult. It's not
Mhm.
an easy thing. So
Yeah.
when there's the wisdom that is shared from their higher self or the divine, giving them specific, tailored wisdom for them of
Yeah.
what is needed, then they can make a decision. Yes, this is something I want to move forward with. If it is what they want to move forward with, then we will come up with we will go into I will go into the spiritual realm, or I'll just go into my own
Mhm.
physical body of the empath and feel where their blocks are within their chakras. And so I'll do
Yeah.
some different chakra clearing, um, and energy, belief blocks. I will work with their limiting beliefs to help
Yeah.
clear those and rewire their brain, reprogram their brains. Um, our brains were, what's the word I'm looking for? Our belief system was created off of a very immature mind. Our
Mm.
subconscious was created between the ages, or the conscious, excuse me, was created, between the day you're born until some people say 5 to 8 years
Mm.
old. And
Mhm.
so the conscious is saying, this is what we're supposed to do. This is what we're comfortable with. This is our
Yeah.
boundaries. And um, and so we limit ourselves based
Yeah.
off of this very immature mind that really doesn't know what the world is about.
Yeah.
So, as an empath, like for me, I took on so many people's pain at such a young
Yeah.
age, their grief. And so I would very much limit myself of my exposure to people because, and my
Mm.
exposure to different opportunities, because I didn't want to experience other people's pain.
Yeah.
I already had enough. And so
Mhm.
I had to learn, one, how an empath is, that this is how they
Mhm.
work, and it's not my energy, and I can tell it to go away. And then
Yeah.
two, I had to um, learn to expand my comfort zone
Yeah.
so that I
Yeah.
could go to experience different things in life. And as you do that, your conscious expands.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
working with my clients, it's working with to rewire their brain, reprogram them, clear these energy
Mhm.
blocks, and then come up with an action plan, a visualization of what they want, and then
Yeah.
we treat them, I train them and work with them as if they are that person already. Um,
Yeah.
and then from there, the action plan to help them make those
Yeah.
adjustments in their lives that are, they're spoon fed, that it's not overwhelming, uh,
Yeah.
especially because we're sensitive. We
Mhm.
too much change is too scary for us.
Yeah.
And so do it in a way that's nurturing and loving. But as they expand, things start to open up for them. Doors open up for them, and
Yeah.
life gets exciting. Whereas prior
Yeah.
to your very, at least a lot of my clients, their
Mhm.
life is stifled. They haven't really found their passion. They haven't found their joy.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is a lot of, removing limiting beliefs, reprogramming the subconscious, manifestation, timeline jumping, quantum leaping. It sounds like you're doing a lot of different things all in one.
Yeah. Well, so when I work with a
Yeah.
client, I usually will have initial appointment, and then if they like me, and they want to continue down working with me, then I have a 3-month program and a 6-month program where we meet on a weekly basis, because change takes
Okay.
time, and you have to have the
Yeah.
consistency, you have to have the accountability, and yeah, and so it's not a one session
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. I on top of that, though, I did see on your site that you do ancestral clearings, I think. I really want to hear more about this because it sounds like that work might be in tandem with what you've described already.
It is a lot of it. Again,
Yeah.
so every client, different beings come forward. I
Yeah.
have some that will take me way out into the cosmos, and I work with light beings. And I have some that
Yeah.
are working, and the same client actually in a different session could just be going into past lives or
Yeah.
ancestors. The
Yeah.
cosmic beings, the light beings could be our ancestors as well. And so
Yeah.
wherever my client needs to go, whatever where they are in that moment, whatever's the most relevant timeline to get them on, that
Yeah.
being from the other side is going to step forward and help get them on that most relevant
Yeah.
timeline. Now, I like to work with the most relevant timeline rather than the highest timeline, because sometimes they're
Yeah.
just not ready for the highest timeline. The highest timeline,
Interesting.
a complete transformation of their life that they're just not there, and it could be
Yeah.
actually cause what's the word I'm looking for? Like it could cause, the turmoil could cause more trauma for.
Mm. So trying to get to whatever the highest timeline for them might not be the best immediate action. So you work with the most relevant timeline. Do they eventually would you recommend that eventually they try to get to that highest timeline?
So yeah, I mean, I think we all would like to get that, but I think that's our journey in this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when are we supposed to get there? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is me being impatient. As I don't know if
Oh,
you can
yeah,
hear that coming.
100%. Yeah, I'm with you. I wanna be on that highest one, but I also
Yeah.
don't wanna cause a lot of, I don't wanna, I do not wanna ever hurt anyone. Like,
Yeah.
this is work that I try to make it
Mhm.
extremely safe and sacred, because if you energetically shift somebody's life so much that they don't have a foundation, it's
Yeah.
can make them, like, just,
Mhm.
feel very uneasy and uncertain, and
Yeah.
that's not what I want. So that's where the relevant timeline comes in, just to make it, again, it's spoon feeding.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that that's the way that you go about it because I think we've all had that experience where we try to manifest something big and maybe it starts to come in and we get freaked out and then things
Sure.
kind of crumble. So that's a very common thing I think for a lot of people.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
really true.
Yeah.
We're just not, like, really 100% prepared
Yeah.
for it. We
Yeah.
think we are,
Yeah.
but we're not.
We're not. We're absolutely not. As we're wrapping up, Emily, I do want to get to how people can connect with you. But did that spirit come back from the beginning? I'm like so curious because I felt a little tingles on my end, and I'm like, I
Oh,
wonder if they're still hanging around.
yes, I checked in with it a few, like 10
Yeah,
minutes ago. It's here right now. Yeah, it's here. Let me ask who it
yeah.
is. Do you want me to ask?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see.
Okay,
Yeah,
give me a second. Let me see if I can find out who this
yeah.
is. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Ooh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, Camille, this is Mother Mary. She's here.
Okay.
She's a
Oh
divine
wow.
mother, and she is here. Okay, thank you. There's some people that will be listening to this that their
Mhm.
souls are completely depleted, she's saying. They are
Mhm.
seeking some sort of nourishment. So she is here. Her energy has been infused in this entire interview to help radiate out to your listeners and send them love, compassion, and nurturing
Mhm.
nourishment that their souls are seeking right now.
Mhm.
Is there anything else?
Mhm.
I'm gonna just ask her if there's anything else. Give me one more second.
Yeah.
She says, "No, I will leave you with that."
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that. This I feel honored that Mother Mary decided to make an appearance. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, she's all
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you see, it's so funny, like watching that shift. It seemed like she was almost like wrapping you in like a shawl. That's what it felt like to
she
me,
showed me.
right?
She's wrapping your listeners up in that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, that's what
what she showed
that's
me.
what came in. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, it's like a shawl." Yeah, see,
Like a
that's
little
how information comes in for me. Like, I think it's so cool that you get information like word for word. For me, it's like a picture, an image, like, a symbol or something like that, and then I'll have to like piece it together. So yeah, that was what I saw the shawl. I was like, "Oh, that's so
I
nice."
love it.
Wow.
I love that you saw
Wow.
what she was showing me too. I just didn't share it
Yeah.
because I see it too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always share what I see the vision. Sometimes I do, but
That's why it's funny. I anytime, and this is like going to be the weirdest sentence I say, anytime I hang out with other mediums, I feel like things like this always happen. And I told you offline before the show that I went through medium training years ago, but I never ended up being really a practicing medium. But sometimes it still happens. Sometimes if I'm around other people, spirit will come in, and I can sometimes hold a connection for a few minutes and get some little pieces, and people be like, "Oh," and then I just move on. So it's always funny when I'm talking to a professional practicing medium who's really really good at it. Sometimes I'll get that little confirmation that's like, "Yes, you also have that gift, even
you
though I don't use it professionally."
why not? Why not? What's
Yeah.
holding you back? I mean,
Oh, what's holding me back? That is, I will eventually tell the whole story on the podcast, but I
I
did have a it's going to be a very good story because I was a member of a spiritualist church years ago, and I had my spooky situation. Well, I had a situation that was spooky, but then I had a situation where there was fraud happening at this spiritualist church, where somebody was brought in who basically faked a seance.
okay.
And and here's the thing, even though I knew that certain parts of the seance were faked, there were certain parts that were real. And it freaked me out that I saw both the fraud happening by this one individual who actually is a very well-known name in the medium community. You probably know this person's name. They're a well-known fraud. But then I also had situations where I was experiencing things that were 1000% paranormal, 1000% spiritual, and I walked away from all of it and I said, I don't want to have anything to do with spirituality for a long time. And I kind of fell asleep for a long time. And then eventually it was like I got pulled back in because spirituality is a part of who I am to my core. I can never walk away from it. I just can't, even as I have, my regular day job and corporate world, even though my normal family life, this is still a part of who I am. So I don't know, maybe you will talk in 5 years and I'll be, I don't know, on with James Van Prague somewhere. Who knows? I don't know.
I love him. He's
Who
amazing.
knows? Who knows? Who knows where any of this is going to take me? I'm trying to be patient, as you talked about, and just see it unfold, even though I desperately want to know where things are going to lead.
Getting a word for you. Do you want me to?
Oh, please, please, always.
So,
Yeah.
this is a path that you are supposed to pursue and do it in a. They're saying like take your foot off the brake. You have the gift, and this is the
Yeah.
thing, Camille. You are here specifically to help people through this time that we're living in, and you can shine a very very bright light. Like it's bright to really help people. So take your foot
Yeah.
off the brake.
Wow.
You don't necessarily need to be patient. You just need to open yourself up, is what they're saying.
Wow. Yeah, that hit me right in my heart. Oh my God. It's not very often that I'm speechless.
It's not me. It's
But you're the conduit, which
Yeah,
is
it's the divine, but that's the thing, that's why I
yeah,
kind of pick the divine because I don't know what's best for you, and I'm not
yeah,
gonna put my ego into your life.
yeah. Oh, take my foot off the brake. This episode was not supposed to be about me, Emily.
Sorry. Okay, so
Just-
2 things I wanna share with you.
please, please.
One in particular, because
Yeah.
I am like you, I am very uncomfortable with the fraud and the
Hmm.
people out there that say they are somebody that they're not.
Yeah.
Um, so before I ever do any sort of reading, even today, before I came on here, I do a
Yeah.
prayer to the grace of piety. Now I work again with
Yeah.
the Essenes, Mother Mary and Grandmother
Yeah.
Agnes, and
Yeah.
grace of piety, and I call in the grace of counsel. I call in and I basically say, I want my ego removed from all of this, and
Yeah.
that whatever is for this person's best intent comes through. So
Yeah.
I'm never going to be I don't, not to say that our egos don't get in the way, because they do.
Hmm.
My
Hmm.
goal
Hmm.
and my intent is to not allow that
Yeah.
to happen. It come
Yeah.
in with a pure heart for whatever it is that person needs. So I came in praying that and asking
Hmm.
for the divine counsel, the grace of the divine to come in and speak
Hmm.
through me. And I did invite, um, before coming through, I did invite a divine spirit. I didn't know it was going to be Mother Mary, but I said, if somebody has a message for anyone today, I do welcome you to come through.
Yeah.
So
That is beautiful.
gonna
I
share that
am
with
so
you in moving forward. With If you choose to move forward, just know that there's the divine, it's called the
yeah.
grace of counsel. You can call them in anytime, and if offline, if you want some more information, I can share it with you.
I am so thankful whenever folks want to share that wisdom with me. I'm so thankful that you were willing to channel. You didn't have to do that. I really appreciate that. I'm so appreciative that you gave a word of wisdom. I'm so appreciative that you brought Mother Mary in. I'm blown away by what you can do, and your willingness to just be the conduit, like I said, and to allow that to come through.
Yeah,
Wow.
betterment of
Yeah.
humanity, and I'm excited for you.
I thank Emily. I thank you. I can't wait to see where life takes both of us, honestly. But beforehand, where can people find you? I want to make sure people know everywhere that they can find you.
Yeah, so my website is Emily Scholes, or Emily-Scholes, and it's SCHULZ.com.
Yeah.
You can Emily C. Scholes on Instagram and Facebook, as well as YouTube. You can find me there. So I am going to
Wonderful.
start a huge teaching series on YouTube. I do weekly channeled messages on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I'll probably start a teaching series I'm going to start to do just to help people understand how to connect with the spiritual realm. Just again,
Yeah.
spoon feeding them and helping them, because so many of us are awakening. And I'm like, let me help guide people along this journey.
Oh, I cannot wait to check that out. Thank you so much, Emily, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Highly Spiritual Person podcast. I really hope you found this conversation inspiring and uplifting. If you did, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more updates. And remember, sharing is caring, so if you think others would benefit from this content, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and family. We'll be back with more exciting content, so stay tuned and stay curious.